Tory divisions over cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners. Scottish Conservatives tell Theresa May means testing won't happen there.
I don't believe that we should change winter fuel allowance. Scotland's a colder climate, we have different housing stock.
Corbyn says it's part of a triple whammy attack on pensioners' living standards. Also tonight, Sweden drops its rape probe of WikiLeaks' Julian Assange, but he's still not in the clear. 4-year-old Violet Grace Ewan's hit-and-run killer gets 9 years in jail. And the latest squeeze on smoking, packets of 10 withdrawn from legal sale.
This is the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart.
Good evening. The means testing of winter fuel payments for pensioners was one of the tough choices unveiled by Theresa May in her manifesto yesterday. But today, the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, Ruth Davidson, said it won't happen north of the border. It isn't in their manifesto because it's too cold here, Davidson said. With Labour accusing the Conservatives of threatening pensioners with a triple whammy over winter payments, care costs and the uprating of the pension itself, it's been a fraught Friday, as our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports.
The Conservative manifesto says the winter fuel allowance will be means-tested and wealthier pensioners will lose it. The Scottish Conservative manifesto says it won't be and they'll all keep it. So what's going on? The Prime Minister was in Scotland for the launch of that Scottish Conservative manifesto. This was her explanation for the discrepancy.
As a government, we have given the Scottish Government significant powers in relation to welfare, and they make a number of decisions about various welfare benefits in Scotland. The decision we've made about winter fuel payments is that we will continue to ensure that the least well-off pensioners are supported.
Her Conservative manifesto says we will means test winter fuel payments. The Scottish Conservative manifesto says we will protect universal winter fuel payments for all older people and they will not be subject to means testing. The Scottish Tory leader had a more straightforward explanation for the difference.
I don't believe that we should change winter fuel allowance. Scotland's a colder climate, we have different housing stock.
Nationally, Conservatives want to fund health and social care by restricting the winter fuel allowance. Labour are demanding it is kept for everyone.
What she's done is caused a huge amount of anxiety. She hasn't said at what level she's going to change it. We think the winter fuel allowance should be kept, and it will be kept under Labour, and it will be universal.
Crossing the border from Scotland to Northumberland, and in Berwick, opinions differed about the climate, although not about the policy.
Scotland, England, Wales all should be the same anyway. And it's not particularly colder in Scotland than what it is in Yorkshire.
Scotland is colder, it is, and I've lived in Scotland and England, but I don't think it's fair the pensioners in England. I think it should be across the board.
When you get to a certain age, your pensioners, everybody should get irrespective of the weather.
And across England, Conservative MPs may be wondering just how they're going to sell this one.
And Carl, divisions on winter fuel aren't the only differences on Tory policy.
No, they are not indeed. In the Conservative manifesto, the national one, not the Scottish one, there is a commitment to expanding Heathrow Airport. But today, the Foreign Secretary himself, Boris Johnson, said that is not the right solution. He said he didn't agree with it and was continuing to make his point to the Prime Minister, Theresa May. So that is a direct contravention of party policy from Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary. Now, I think there may be other Conservatives too who are a bit concerned about some of the philosophy in this, although for the time being at least they're waiting for Theresa May to get on with Brexit and they'll give her a fair wind until that is done. But this is still a honeymoon period, I think, for the Prime Minister.
Carl, thank you. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says Sweden's decision to drop rape allegations against him was an important victory, but that his battle for freedom is far from over. Speaking from the balcony of the Ecuadorian embassy, where he's been claiming asylum for 5 years, he said he still fears the United States wants to extradite him. Paul Davis reports.
Looking pale after so many years without sunshine, Julian Assange emerged briefly from the embassy that's been his home and prison. There was a gesture that reflected the fact that one investigation into him had been dropped, but rather than celebratory, his words were bitter.
7 years without charge, why my children grew up without me. That is not something that I can forgive. It is not something that I can forget.
His mood not helped by the Metropolitan Police saying he still faces arrest if he leaves his refuge. The saga began in 2010 when WikiLeaks released vast amounts of American secrets. In November, a Swedish international arrest warrant was issued following allegations that he'd committed sex offences there. He was detained in London and jailed, but later bailed, where he fought a series of court cases before eventually losing his extradition battle 2 years later. Fearing deportation to America from Sweden, he quickly fled to the Ecuadorian embassy, where he's been ever since.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Tonight, he is still there, back out of sight, while his legal team try to negotiate a deal that will allow him to travel to the airport and on to Ecuador. A deal that would call off the waiting policeman. This balcony is just 6 foot above street level, but Julian Assange fears if he steps down here where I am, he'll be arrested very quickly and put on a plane to America. And that's why, until he's given assurances to the contrary, he's likely to stay exactly where he is. From one supporter, a plea to the police and government.
He's already suffered incarceration for several years in the Ecuadorian embassy, which many people would argue is a pretty severe restraint on his freedom. I would think that probably it's in the public interest just to let the whole thing drop.
For now, no sign of a breakthrough in the impasse. The world's cameras still wait for a departure that is not looking imminent. Paul Davis, ITV News.
A speeding driver who fled the country after killing a 4-year-old girl in a hit-and-run crash has been jailed for more than 9 years. 23-year-old Aidan McAteer left Violet Grace Ewins dying on the ground after the crash in March. Her devastated mother told the court her daughter's life was taken away in an instant by criminals who only cared for themselves. Here's Sejal Karia.
Violet Grace Ewins was just 4 when she was killed by a hit-and-run driver. Her parents described her as a funny and caring daughter with a beautiful soul. Today, the man who was behind the wheel of that car was jailed for 9 years. Violet's mother, Rebecca, and father, Glenn, still clutching Violet's favourite teddy bear, spoke of their pride in their little girl, who died in their arms.
You do everything to try and protect your child, you know, looking out for meningitis, childhood cancers, and then it's taken away in an instant by 2 inconsiderate criminals who didn't care for anybody that day apart from themselves.
This video shows the speeding car just before the crash. Moments later, it would mount a pavement, striking Violet and her grandma, who were walking along a street in St Helens. The driver, Aidan McAteer, was captured on CCTV fleeing the scene. The court heard he'd callously run past Violet, who lay critically injured on the ground. Within hours of the fatal crash, McAteer had boarded a plane to Amsterdam. He eventually handed himself in after his mother made a public appeal. Dean Brennan, who helped him escape, was today jailed for 6 years. Despite desperate attempts to save her life, Violet died later in hospital. But through the donation of some of her organs, this little girl managed to save 2 other lives. Sejal Karia, ITV News.
A former Newcastle United coach has been charged with 29 historic sexual offences dating back more than 40 years. George Ormond will appear in court next month. He's alleged to have committed the offences between 1973 and 1998. And Rolf Harris has returned home after nearly 3 years in prison. The former television personality is now on trial, accused of indecent assault, which he denies. There have been long queues at polling stations in Iran today as millions of people vote in presidential elections. Voting was even extended for 2 hours to deal with the surge. The bitter and close contest will determine how the country engages with the West. As our international affairs editor Raghi Omar reports from Tehran, the outcome could have far-reaching consequences.
From early morning, thousands flocked to polling booths across northern Tehran, the queues snaking round the bloc. There's more at stake here than who becomes the next president. Iranians are also choosing what kind of relationship they want with the outside world. And there was a desperation to make their voices heard. This is not the usual image the West has of Iran, but behind today's optimism and sense of excitement is a struggle for the kind of country Iran wants to become.
I reckon this election is not just an election, this is a referendum between two sides.
And the choice could not be more stark. The incumbent president, Hassan Rouhani, was the architect of Iran's nuclear deal with the West. A moderate, he wants to continue building ties with the international community. But many Iranians are bitterly disappointed they haven't seen the economic benefits they were promised from that deal. His opponent is Ibrahim Raisi, an ultra-hardliner. As an Islamic judge, he helped sentence hundreds of dissidents to death in the 80s. He's instinctively suspicious of the West and says Iran should rely on itself and not depend on the international community who have let Iran down. But it's Iran's supreme leader who has the final say in the country. Rarely in the presence of Western journalists, I witnessed him cast his vote today. What gives this election even added significance, both domestically and internationally, is that whoever becomes president could also succeed in becoming the ultimate political power in Iran. Whoever wins could go on to become Iran's supreme leader. No wonder this is the most important election in recent Iranian history, with international and long-term implications. Raghi Omar, ITV News, Tehran.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, why young people are finding it harder to find a new home. And the stars wish terminally ill Bradley Lowry a happy 6th birthday. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. Increasing numbers of young people can't get their foot on the housing ladder, with home ownership halving in many areas of the country. ITV News has seen new figures which show the housing crisis is badly affecting under-35s across Britain, not just in the southeast. Here's our business editor, Joel Hills.
Bristol is on the up, and so are house prices. This city has bricks and mortar to die for, from Victorian terrace to Regency splendour. Highly desirable, increasingly unaffordable.
So we've just taken this one onto the market. It's
2 bedrooms for £250,000. He thinks it will go for asking price, but in this world, first-time buyers have to compromise.
I joint own a home with a friend. Actually, we bought a flat as a project, so to speak, but we're seeing a lot of that happening. A lot of people aren't necessarily buying as couples, but they are sort of coming together as friends, or they're coming together as brothers and sisters.
Vale Street is apparently the steepest street in Britain. Walking up it is a bit of a struggle. Buying a home on it is nigh on impossible for most first-time buyers nowadays. They have been priced out because the property market in Bristol has been on fire. The price of the average home here is now 10 times the average salary. Across Britain, home ownership levels are falling. According to analysis by the Resolution Foundation, the percentage of people under 35 who own a home has fallen from 62% to 36% in Bristol and the southwest. In West Yorkshire, it has fallen to 30%, and in outer London, only 20% of young people have managed to buy. The Conservatives, Labour and the Lib Dems all promise more new homes, but we've heard that song before. For university students saddled with debt, home ownership is more of a dream than an ambition.
My father's 21 when he first bought his B&B with his first wife, yeah.
He was 21?
Yes.
And you are how old?
I'm 21.
And
there's no chance.
I hope to eventually own my own home, but I don't think that will be within the next 20 or so years.
Our desire to own property has created haves. The young are the have-nots. Politicians offer solutions, but barring a sudden economic shock, there are no quick fixes. Joel Hills, ITV News in Bristol.
Police investigating the disappearance of a 49-year-old woman in Hull have arrested 2 men. Renata Anchak's been missing since the 25th of April. Officers are also searching houses in the city. And Maria Sharapova says she won't request a wild card for this year's Wimbledon. The former champion will play in the qualifying tournament instead. Smoking cigarettes won't be the same from tonight, with tough new laws coming into force. Smaller packs of 10 are banned, and only standardised green packaging can be sold. As our consumer editor Chris Choi reports, it is aimed at stubbing out the habit for good.
A pack of 10 of whatever you have.
Here it is, the last pack of 10 cigs to be sold by this Manchester tobacconist. At midnight, Britain's 9 million smokers face sweeping changes.
No more, ever. I'm quite annoyed that I can't buy a pack of 10 cigarettes anymore, that I'm forced to buy a pack of 20. As a social smoker, I'd prefer just to buy a pack of 10, smoke them until the pack's finished.
From midnight, cigarette sales transform. 65% of the front and back of every packet must feature health warnings. There can be no promotional terms such as light, natural and organic. Shops can no longer sell off old stock that doesn't comply with the new rules. And perhaps most noticeable, packs sold for more than a century are banned. Gone will be the 10s, along with packs containing 17, 19 and no more mention of price on packaging. As for these famous cigarette logos, known for generations, they'll disappear.
Did you experience any cough when you stopped smoking?
At this Stop Smoking clinic in Leicester, they say the end of packs of 10 will influence customers who usually buy them.
And they think, you know, they'll just smoke those and then they won't smoke anymore. But certainly people that use our service tell us that without that, they will think much more seriously about stopping smoking.
But the tobacco industry's main spokesman says banning smaller packs is nonsense.
This is a perverse way of getting people to stop smoking. Effectively, what you're doing is basically getting them to buy more tobacco, not less. And small packs made up something like 75% of the UK markets.
Tonight, shelves are being emptied of old stock, the end of an era in British retail. And it's another nail in the coffin for an industry that sent thousands to an early grave. Chris Choi, ITV News.
Final preparations are underway for Pippa Middleton's wedding. The Duchess of Cambridge's younger sister is due to marry James Matthews, a hedge fund manager, tomorrow. The ceremony will be held in a small church in Berkshire, followed by a reception in the grounds of the Middleton family home. Among the guests will be Princes William and Harry, and he's expected to bring his actress girlfriend Meghan Markle. Pippa first came to public attention in her role as bridesmaid at the royal wedding in 2011. And finally tonight, the touching birthday celebrations for the terminally ill boy who's won the hearts of football fans. Bradley Lowry has a rare form of cancer, but refuses to let that stop him supporting his beloved Sunderland. And he was just as determined to celebrate his 6th birthday out of hospital and in his home village of Blackhall in County Durham. Damon Green went along.
Any child's 6th birthday is a special occasion, but if one family has gone to the trouble of making this celebration a bit extra special, you can hardly blame them. A party for Bradley Lowry, the boy whose bravery has won the hearts of everyone he's met. Friends, neighbours and well-wishers pitching in to make sure it's a night to remember.
The scale that it's on at the moment, you know, as you can see, it's going to be very memorable. They're not going to be able to forget this birthday ever. You know, so creating the memories for Bradley as well as making it the most exciting birthday he's ever had.
Bradley suffered from neuroblastoma, a rare form of cancer, since before he was 2 years old, and his whole life has been a struggle. Despite the recent news that his illness has progressed, he was determined to reach his 6th birthday and to enjoy it.
Thank you for all my birthday messages, everyone.
Last night, Bradley and his family were guests at a ceremony where he received an award for his courage. One he accepted on behalf of all children in the North East struggling with illness.
Thank you, everyone.
His illness and his courage have earned him the friendship of everyone he's met, including the star of his favourite football team, and somehow Bradley and his family have adapted to life in the spotlight.
He thinks he's famous, he thinks he's special, which he is very special, and like every child should feel like that, every child should feel special, so the fact that he thinks he's special is amazing, and
like when it's all over, I know he's felt special, so that's my job done.
To show that sort of courage, it's been amazing for me, but not only for me, for my family. You know, having the time to go out and spend time with him at the hospital. You know, it's been special for me. You know, something that will remain with me for the rest of my life, for sure.
Everyone here is determined to make a fuss of Bradley tonight because he might be a friend to the stars, but after all, he's still a 6-year-old boy. Damon Green, ITV News, in County Durham.
Can't top that. I'll be back with news at 10, but for now, from all of us here, a very good evening to you. Bye-bye.